Today's scramble is the exciting route up Table Mountain in Cape Town, which is India Venster, which, as you'll see from the sign just behind me, is not for the faint-hearted. Below me you can see the route up from the cable car station, the bottom cable car station on, I think it's called Tafelberg Road. Just come up the rocky path until you get to this signpost here, and then this signpost here, which is pointing you the way up to India Venster. Just follow the yellow footsteps. This is the first section of the India Venster route, just climbing up fairly steeply but pretty easily side of the mountain. As I said, if you're ever unsure of the route, follow those yellow footsteps going ever upwards on a fairly simple scramble. Don't say you weren't warned. Here's a good moment if you did want to choose to go down again rather than carrying on up. This is very much what the climb's like at the moment. It's not scrambling, it's quite rocky steps of moderate steepness. Of course, those views of Cape Town, the city, keep getting better and better as you go further up, and the path itself, now we're into scrambling territory, but again, very easy going. At the end of those rocky steps, you'll come up to a col, and then which you can rest for a while, and then the path is going to cut across all the way up here, and then this is the steep bit going to be climbing up there. You can see that we're now once again under the cable car station and going to be crossing under the cables. What is roughly a contour path from the col, very easy going, with just the odd bit of scrambling thrown in. Now we're coming to the last point where it's easy enough to turn around. The end of that contour path across the green part and coming up to some rocky buttresses where there are the staples and the chains. Now into a couple of pretty steep rocky scrambles, probably just a little bit above grade 1. No assistance, usual story, follow the yellow footprints. So with Lion's Head in the background, we've now ducked under the Cableway cables once again and are coming to the steepest bit of the climb. You can just see above there the staples and the chains. There goes the cable car, and this section is not too technically difficult, but you do need to take a bit of thought about where you're going to put your feet and your hands in relation to the staples and the chains and to other bits of rock where you can get foot and hand holds. Once you've successfully navigated the staples and chains, there's another steep scramble here. Nothing to help you, but it's a nice little enclosed clough, or I guess kloof, as we would say here on Table Mountain. At the top of that scramble is a boulder field with the odd red-winged starling, saw the odd snake as well. You make your way up the boulder field. You'll see that we've still got quite a long way to go to get up to the cable car station, but we're going to be going round and then round the corner. The good news is that you do not have to get up that rock face there in order to complete India Venster. There are lots of routes up the boulder field. You can jump across lots of them, particularly because on a dry day like today, the rocks have got superb grip. Even for the scrambles, there's lots of erosions, lots of little handholds. It's really good scrambling territory, though I might change my mind if the weather had been wet, and I know it's going to be a bit wet around the corner under the cable car station. Once you reach this overhang car station, watch out for the wind if it's blowing a southeaster like it is at the moment. The route runs along the bottom here, so don't be tempted to go around this bit here. I do not have a great head for heights at all, but the path here is okay. The gradient of the slope is not too steep, and the path is set back, and that's true of almost all of the walking here, in terms of if there is a kind of a ledge or an edge, you don't feel too scared, probably just as long as the wind isn't blowing in your direction, which fortunately, at least for the wind today, it's been relatively sheltered on this side of the mountain. Now at a nice wide platform, lovely place to stop and rest. We've crossed back again underneath the cable car cables, and a fabulous view over Lion's Head. It's not a great deal more ascent to do. You can see the cable car station there. Luckily, as I've said before, you don't need to climb up that very sheer face. Instead, the path is going to follow along, hugging close to the bottom of that cliff face. Yeah, there's a drop come quite a long way beneath that, but you won't be aware of it at all as you're walking in vegetation. The only pain is wetness on the rocks, and on some days a little bit of wind. But look at that view, fabulous, back over the 12 apostles, or the starting of them at least. Okay, so the path doesn't completely hug underneath the rock face. Here it's coming here, but just to reiterate, if you don't like drops and you don't like heights, it's okay. It's okay. Just a warning that it's not all flat contour path. Here's a scramble that you have to get up. This is not as tricky as the stuff with the staples and the chains, but it does require a bit of care, because you've got to get yourself all the way up here to lie under the rock face there and move along around it. So the end is coming in sight. It's going to be up this gully just round the corner there, even though there's a reasonable way to go. I'll be honest, on that last bit there are a couple of slight ledgy bits, but nothing personally that I didn't feel I could do. Just lean in to the hillside, look at the path, and it's absolutely fine. A little bit of water pitter-pattering from the top onto the rocks in this particular section. So rocks, from being very, very grippy, and the whole of the rest of the route can be a little bit slippery here. So you need to watch out for slopes. And once you get here to this sign, then you know you've done India Venster. There's still some rocky hiking path to go to get up to the top of Cable Mountain, but you've done it. Congratulations. You can see over there the hut, which is a good marker point along the end of the journey, and you can carry on following the yellow footprints all the way up. I think maybe you can see some people just up there to where the path crosses and go on up. But personally, at this point, I prefer to have one last scramble. Just straight up here. It's a sort of grade 0.5, 0.75 or thereabouts that cuts off quite a bit of the route if you're walking back to the cable car station. Of course, if you're going to Plaskett Gorge and walking down that way, then keep going onwards. So that was India Venster. Absolutely fantastic. It's a grade 2 scramble, so in theory beyond the capabilities of a grade 1 scrambler, but actually it's just perfectly pitched in terms of challenging you, scaring you to some extent, but you can just about do it. Of course, it's really helped by the fact that you have those yellow footprints, you've got the staples, you've got the chains, so that all helps you to do stuff that you couldn't otherwise do. And the rock itself is wonderful, really grippy and pockmarked, so that you can get your hands in really well, and wonderful. It's a fabulous scramble. So good, in fact, that I've done it twice today already, and I'm going to give it 9 out of 10.
And finally, here's a map of the route, which is well marked on OpenStreetMap from the bottom to the top Cableway stations on Table Mountain. Further details are given in the text description underneath the video, including a lot of warnings, since this is not a risk-free scramble. Mugging, heat, dehydration, wildfires, mist, high wind and rain are among the potential dangers that you need to watch out for.